This video has been a long time coming. Now, if you follow my channel, you've probably seen lots of content with the new bed rack from Xtrusion on the truck. I've been running it for a while. I've been tweaking it, how it was set up, and kind of dialing in the way that I want it. And I have waited to put the install video and kind of my overall impressions and review of this product until now, because I really wanted to run it over time and give you guys like an actual review that would hopefully be helpful, not just some initial, ooh, it's new and shiny and it's on my truck, ta-da. I've done reviews like that, and those don't really, I don't know, they don't carry a lot of weight for me. I want to know, how did it do on the trail after you've been running it 3 to 6 months or more? Like that's what I'm more interested in. So I put this bed rack on at the end of last year, 2023, and I've been running it now for January, February, March, April, May, and just now starting in June. So we're almost at the 6-month mark, and I've put it on a lot of different trails, and I found things that I love about it and things that have been a problem. And this review is gonna be completely honest and transparent about that. But I've got it set up now the way that I want it, and I've been waiting for this moment to do this review. So part of this video is gonna be a flashback to December of 23 when we install this. And then part of this video is gonna be multiple trips that I've done in the last 6 months. And then obviously now we're here current day talking about my impressions on everything so far. If you're familiar with Xtrusion, there is an infinite combination of potential setups that you can run with their racks. That's kind of one of the selling points of them, is there's really no limitations on what you do, and you can cater it to exactly what you want. So I chose kind of a unique setup. I wanted on my passenger side to be gas strut lift gates. Eventually I plan to mount some gear. I'm going to mount potentially a case with my Starlink. But what was really important to me was I wanted to be able to access the bed, because this is the side my battery, my fridge are on, and my previous setup couldn't do that. And now I can. Since these struts are so powerful, when they close down, they can close down kind of hard. It could potentially injure you. You could get your fingers smashed, or especially if a kid's doing it. Something that I think Xtrusion could do to help is give you some little like sticky rubber pads to stick onto the side pieces, so that would make this less, like if I let this go, you can hear it goes down hard. And that's because these struts are rated to carry some weight. So I wouldn't want to take away the capability to mount heavy items. I think that that's great, but it's just something that you have to be mindful of when you're closing it, to make sure and hold it and keep it from slamming down on there. But these are absolute beasts. You can mount a lot of weight to them. And the big benefit for me is just being able to access the gear. Like my ladder for my open road tents right here, set power fridges right here, my jackery right back here. Everything about this setup is just so convenient. On the driver's side, I decided to install this slide out. Now you can put these on the underside of the Xtrusion rack. You could put them on the side. There's really nowhere you can't put it. But one thing to keep in mind is if you choose to stick this on the side, you're not going to be able to add a access gate like I just showed you on the other side. And that is because you have to remove the cross member to run this slide out. So keep that in mind. You just kind of have to decide what setup you want. But this is how the slide out works. Now, the main thing I like about this is it gives you access to stuff like your propane tank that you can store up further in the truck that, you know, you normally would have to crawl up in there, or I probably wouldn't even mount anything up there, to be honest, just because it was such a hassle to access. So this allows me to put gear on that maybe I want to use at camp, but keep it deeper in the truck and more out of the way. So for me, I've got a quick connect here with my first aid, and then propane tank. I've got space to mount something else on there. I don't know if I'm going to use that yet, but it just slides into here. So love the slide out. One thing that to keep in mind is there's no handle. So you notice when I was pulling this out, I was using my case to pull it. I've seen other people that put, you know, various different types of handles on here that you could use. But it doesn't ship with one. So that's something you'll need to provide, come up with a solution. But it's not a big deal, but just keep it in mind. One of the cool things about Xtrusion is you can pick any height in inches that you want for your rack. So no matter what truck you're running, if you have a roof rack and you need a tent that's going to be able to clear the bed rack onto the roof a little bit, that's what my situation was. You can pick that height and get it exactly fine-tuned for your rig. Now, something I did was I talked to another guy who had a Tacoma and asked him what height he had ordered. He said 21 inches. Turns out we have slightly different model trucks, slightly different roof racks, and that 21 inches didn't allow my tent to clear the roof rack fully when the cab and the bed flexed. It was still getting some rubbing. So instead of reaching out to Xtrusion, having them send me some longer pieces of extrusion for the sides, I just went ahead and had the guys at OZK Vans fabricate up some brackets for me. So I've got these little risers that gives me the clearance I needed. But if you do your homework ahead of time, the reason I'm telling you this is if you're getting ready to order this rack, just go out and measure, make sure that you give yourself the clearance you need, and they can cut these pieces for you exactly the size you need, and then you won't have to do something like this. So on this side of the rack, I went with a more traditional rack setup. So these are not access gates. It's just purely for mounting. I did this because I knew that I wanted to keep my shovel and my axe on the outside. I use those every trip. And then I knew that I wanted the slide out on the inside, and you can't do access gates on the outside when you're doing the slide out. Now, initially I was curious about these slotted bolt cutouts or mounting points in the Xtrusion side panels. Come to find out, there's really no bolt pattern these can't fit because of the design. So initially I was a little bit curious because I hadn't seen that a lot. And as I started to mount things to both the inside and outside, it became clear that this really makes sense for this type of setup. So over here, pretty traditional, pretty straightforward. And then I have the access gates on that side, slide out on the inside. And that's the setup that I went with. It's been awesome. So let's talk a little bit about, now that I've been running this for roughly 6 months, what my thoughts are. Overall, I've been super impressed. It's very strong, very stable. Don't have any sort of like flexing or wiggling that I've noticed in terms of when I've been in the tent and there's been weight on the truck. On the trail, it's done really well as well. Now, something that I do want to point out is there is a lot of hardware on this bed rack. So if you are used to a simpler setup, something like an RCI, which is what I was running previously, even like the new backwoods bed rack, it's relatively simple, not a ton of bolts. If you're used to something like that, this is gonna be, in terms of setup, a whole different ball game. This is like hours and hours of work versus like 30 minutes to an hour on one of those types of racks. And in a second, I'm gonna show you the actual setup of this and you guys will kind of see what I'm talking about. It's involved. That being said, there is obviously a lot of capability with this setup that those others don't have. So it's a trade-off, right? But with the additional hardware, one thing that is important to point out is that as you drive on trails, uneven roads, and that vibration continues to kind of work its way through all the hardware on the rack, eventually you're probably going to vibrate out some bolts. Now this happened to me multiple times. I had to tighten them down several times. Xtrusion provides some like anti-vibration. It's kind of like soft Loctite that you can put on the bolts, which I did for all of them. And that still wasn't enough. Maybe it's just the way that I wheel, but ultimately about 3 or 4 times I had some bolts back all the way out, specifically up here where the tent mounts to the top of the rack. Now, the solution that I've put in place that is working is I got some red Loctite, not the blue, red, and I hit all the bolts in the top that mount the tents to the rack, and that has improved. Since I've done that, I've been on about 3 trips since then, and went ahead and went up and hit them to see if I could tighten any of those down, and none of them would tighten it more than they already were. So those are maintaining their tightness. So what I may end up doing is going through and hitting everything with some of that red Loctite. I'm not sure. We'll kind of see where we go. But this is just the nature of having a rack that has a whole lot more hardware, and it's something to keep in mind as you plan for what type of rack you want to run. Overall, I've been super satisfied with this product. I love it. I'm going to keep running it indefinitely. I don't plan to change it out. This is exactly the type of setup I was looking for, but I really wanted to show you guys the install video. So now that I've kind of talked about the setup and my impressions, let me show you what it actually looks like to install. Now, this is not going to be instructional. I'm not going to tell you how to, and that's something that I think you should keep in mind because there are basically no instructions that come with this rack. It's going to be you looking on YouTube videos like this one. There's others that are more instructional than mine will be. but they don't provide a lot of instructions. I wish they did, but I also understand why they don't. It's such a modular setup and so many different potential combinations of gear on their rack that they've opted to just kind of let you sort through it, which is part of the reason it takes a long time to put this rack together. But that being said, it is doable, and I am glad that I did it. And also, I want to give a quick shout to my buds at OZK Vans. If you're in Northwest Arkansas or anywhere in this area and you want to get some help like I did, they are awesome at this, and they will put this together for you. And those are the guys you're about to watch in this video assemble this. So let's take a quick look at what the installation process is like. Xtrusion Overland bed rack. I love it, and I'm going to keep running it. Way more pros than cons, and I just think it's a super sleek setup. Everything about it is dialed, and just this alone sold me on the product. Being able to access my bed, and yeah, it's just so cool. So I appreciate you guys watching this video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Shout out to the members. If you want to become a member, get access to some more like behind the scenes content, GPS data and all that kind of stuff, Slack access, you can click that join button here on YouTube, and we'd love to have you be a member. And also, I'm real close to 10,000 subs. That's like a goal I've been putting in every video because I'm just trying to hit that goal. And so if you are not a subscriber and you'd like to hit that subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. Most importantly, remember, the more you camp, the less deer the aliens abduct.